What's going on, y'all? This is Coach Bruno with Coach Bruno's Corner. So we got a big fight coming up on July 25th, which is next Saturday. We got Errol Spence Jr. versus Tim Tszyu. This should be a banger of a fight, so all of us Texas boys and girls and all of you in the land down under should definitely tune in. It's going to be exciting. I'm going to break it down into the path to victory for both guys, because I do see both guys as being able to win this fight. I would say a lot of people like to say every fight's 50-50. I think that's overused. Now, there are some fights that are genuinely 50-50. I would say this fight's more of a 55-45, and in the end, I'll reveal of who I think is going to pull it off. So let me just jump in and say, Errol Spence is coming in with a 28-1 record with 22 wins by knockout, and then you got Tim Tszyu, who has a 27-3 record with 18 wins by knockout. And so I'll start with Tim Tszyu. I think his path to victory is the fact that he has fought 7 times since the last time Errol Spence was in the ring against Bud Crawford. Granted, his last 6 fights, he's only 3-3. But he's got the momentum of being in the ring, being in camps, and just grinding forward. He's faced a little adversity, kind of answered some of those questions. He's been a champion before. He's held a WBO. I think he had a victory in his title defense against Brian Mendoza, if I remember correctly. So I think he's a little more fresh, too, as far as his body. If you think of all the things that Errol Spence has been into outside of the ring, as well as his last fight in the ring, I think he just has more wear and tear. Even though their records are very similar in the amount of total fights, I would just say that Tim Tszyu definitely has got the less wear and tear on his body. So I think that's basically his path to victory is, and no knock to him. And I mean this in the most respectful way. I just think he's a B-class fighter. But given the fact of where Errol Spence is in his career at this later stage of life, that doesn't mean that Tim Tszyu is a walk in the park. This is actually a tough fight. This is not a fight where it's going to come in, look really great, and just mop the floor with him. This is not a tune-up fight. This is actually a tough fight. So I respect him for coming into this fight, because when he gets in the ring, it'll be just shy of 3 years outside of the ring. This fight's on the 25th. When he fought Terrence Bud Crawford, that was on July 29th of 2023. So again, just like 4 days out of a 3-year hiatus, essentially. Now, I think the thing that kind of benefits both guys, I've seen a lot of people hating on this, so they're fighting at 154 pounds, right? So that's the super welterweight or junior middleweight weight class. They had a catch weight at 158 pounds, which I thought was fine, no big deal. Definitely benefits Spence for not being in the ring for so long. But I just saw that they actually recently bumped that up. They just agreed, I guess Spence in his camp asked for 160, and Tim Tszyu in his camp obliged him, which is cool because honestly, you're just 2 pounds away anyways. Some people were saying like, oh, he's having trouble making weight. They're over a week out. They're about a week and a half out. All that does is means he doesn't have to lose those last 2 pounds, and that means Tim Tszyu doesn't have to lose those last 2 pounds. A lot of people aren't thinking, Errol Spence is coming from Houston, Texas in his training camp. So when you're going from Houston, Texas all the way to Australia, you're crossing 15 different time zones. And they say, rule of thumb is, if you're coming from Texas all the way to Australia, to get over that jet lag, it could take anywhere from 10 to 14 days. So I think, if anything, that was smart, considering that he's going to have to adapt and his body's going to have to get used to being out there. Personally, I probably would have went out there a little sooner. I think if you're going all the way out there, probably should have went 2 weeks out, maybe even 3 weeks out. But that's just me. So the way I think that Errol Spence can win this fight is because at the end of the day, just the experience and who he was. He was a great of his era. He was a unified champion. He held the WBC, the WBA, and the IBF titles all at one point in time. I view their styles, actually, I think their styles complement each other very well. So that goes to both guys. They're very similar in that way, that they're both very fundamental. I think Errol Spence, the way I've always viewed him is he doesn't do one thing great, but he does everything good. He's like a jack of all trades, but they say the jack of all trades is a master of none. And that's no knock to him. Look, neither guy has the footwork of Manny Pacquiao. They don't have the speed of Amir Khan, and they don't have the defensive ability of like a Pernell Whitaker, right? And that's not to knock them. They're both great fighters. They've both earned, I'm sure, life-changing money, obviously, and I'm sure their children will never hurt. So kudos to them. Everybody has a style. Not everybody can be the same fighter. So in the end, I'll cover this fight a little more as we get closer to the fight, but I would say that I am leaning towards Errol Spence. You know, he does have a whole new camp. He has a new trainer. I just think that seeing that he's sobered up, you know, that was something that he had said recently, that he stopped the drinking. He's been taking his nutrition a lot more serious. I think he had a nutritionist this camp as well. I think that given all that and giving his body the rest that it really needed, I could see him with a path to victory. And so given that, I'm going to edge the fight in his direction. Like I said, I'm going 55-45 in favor of Errol Spence. Again, I'll see y'all in the next video as the fight gets closer, and I'll see you in other fights.